Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you again for being here for our Decatur High School virtual town hall. We really appreciate you tuning in, and we are recording this. So if for some reason you have to leave and aren't able to finish, we will post this as soon as the recording is ready to go. Um, uh, so I wanted to just make sure that we welcomed everyone. And the first thing I always like to do is review our 3 pillars that we have to keep our work focused here in City Schools of Decatur. And these 3 pillars are advancing racial equity, accelerating student learning, and building and sustaining a positive school climate. We believe that our work in these 3 core areas, whether it happens virtually or face-to-face, will result in helping our students be their best, achieve their dreams, and make the world a better place. At the high school, we also follow the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, as well as the International Baccalaureate Diploma program, to help form the umbrella and structures for how lessons and units of study are generated. I hope the information that we share tonight will alleviate at least a portion of your stress and anxiety that you may be experiencing. We do have this session set up as a webinar, which means you cannot ask direct questions during the presentation, but we do still have 2 ways for you to ask questions, and we will monitor both of these during the session, and if time permits, we will take some questions that were submitted during the presentation. And the 2 ways to do that is, one, you can email opening2020@csd.net, and the other option is to submit questions through the Q&A form for our virtual town halls. Our agenda this evening is going to be a quick introduction of our high school team. Then we're going to do an overview of the high school virtual learning plan. Then we're going to spend most of the time tonight answering our frequently asked questions. So we've gone through probably over 600 questions at this point. And we've kind of grouped them into several categories, and we will answer most of those as we get through the presentation. Then we'll do some of the live questions at the end of that, and then we will talk about where you can go to get information and then outline the next steps. So I'd like to introduce first Rochelle Lofstrand, the high school principal. Hey, Rochelle, thanks for joining us. Also, Rochelle's admin team, Rodney Thomas is our athletics and activities director. We have Dwayne Sproul, the career and technical education director. There are 4 assistant principals at the high school: Miss Jeannie Johnson, Miss Jessica Sturm, Wes Hatfield, and Taylor Cross. And they are all joining us here tonight. And we want to make sure we recognize that they are listening and are ready to support your students when they start the virtual learning, as it is just around the corner. And also our hostess with the mostest, we have Dr. Kristy Beam, and she is our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and she will be leading the majority of this presentation. With that said, I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Beam.
Hello and welcome. This quote that you're seeing on the screen has kind of been my guiding light since March. The future is uncertain, but this uncertainty is at the very heart of human creativity. Like everyone else, virtual learning is not where I would necessarily choose to be, but being that is a health and safety issue, I know there are lots of questions, that we have to address, and some very difficult decisions about that. But here we are, and this is where we find ourselves. So I have to remind myself that I can focus on the challenges that brings, or I can take the opportunity to look at school through a fresh lens. And so with those difficult decisions, I have to recognize that my role is to ensure that our students are receiving the best instruction that we can give them, regardless of the environment. So I just want to be sure that we're clear on some definitions. We have our live instruction on the schedule. When we talk about our live blocks, that means that it will be facilitated by a teacher. So that could be a blend of synchronous, asynchronous learning. I know at the high school we've divided that up a little bit different with the flipped classroom model. So Principal Lofstrand will talk about that in detail a little bit later. But live could refer to whole group, small group, and individual check-ins. Synchronous means the teacher and the student are live and speaking, just like I'm speaking with you right now. That could be live chatting, live streaming, video conferencing. And then asynchronous means a lesson that's been prepared ahead of time. So that could be a video recording of the teacher. It could be digital lessons or online learning. And then Wellness Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday is a district-wide initiative focusing on the topics of equity, wellness, social emotional learning, and increasing student engagement. And we feel this is very important, especially to address the collective trauma that we are currently experiencing. So where did this plan and these schedules and everything come from? Well, we had a team of experts and educators, and we were working all summer, and we started out digging into the surveys that were sent out to parents and teachers and our secondary students back in May to get feedback on the virtual learning that occurred in the spring. And we gained a plethora of knowledge from those surveys. I did want to share a little snippet of some of the trends that we saw. The parent surveys said that students needed more work. Sometimes they didn't have enough to do, that they would like a more typical schedule, that students needed help with organization, more off-screen resources, that we needed to simplify and centralize the delivery. More live instruction, small groups seemed to be most effective, and there needed to be student accountability. And we needed to really focus on that human interaction and the peer-to-peer connections. So the three that you see highlighted are trends that we saw across all three surveys. The parents, the students, and the teachers recognized these areas. So the next thing we did was we read a massive amount of information. We read educational journals, we looked at functioning virtual schools, we watched webinars, we reviewed work of other districts. We had Dr. Mary Banks, our equity coordinator, train the team on utilizing a racial equity tool for decision making so that we ensured that our work was being viewed through a racial equity lens. So here are some guidelines that guided our work from research when we were creating the guidelines and schedules that we did finally recommend to district leaders. So some of the things that were very important are that students and staff have check-ins each day, and that the peer-to-peer collaboration, again, is an important piece that should be taking place. That there are regular opportunities for live instruction with the teacher, that there's socially distant or virtual physical activity included, that students that receive interventions are still receiving those services, that we address students' mental health and behavioral services, and then any assistance that we provide our families with technology. So we really tried to focus in on that cross-section of the survey data and the research to help us devise a plan for virtual learning here in City Schools of Decatur. So let's talk about some of the questions that we received. I want you to be aware that we do have more meetings coming up. Next week, we have a town hall directly to address questions about Wellness Wednesday, special programs, and technology. So the detailed questions in those areas will be addressed then. But let me dive into some of the questions we did receive for 9-12 instruction. So we had some concerns about the schedules. And it's important to note in the spring that all schools in Georgia were given waivers. So there were no attendance requirements, no grading requirements, no testing requirements. So schools at that point literally had the option to close, although we did not here in City Schools of Decatur. But that is not the case now. In Georgia, students from the age 6 to 16, school is compulsory, and there are currently no waivers granted. So we are accountable for providing students with a full educational experience. There were some concerns about the less overall instructional time based on the traditional school schedule. As I mentioned, according to research, online lessons should be shorter. So we did take that into account. Also, it's important to know, like, classrooms in 2020 are a little bit different than what we experienced maybe when parents were in school. I know when it was different than when I was in school. Classrooms today are student-centered. They're expected to be collaborative and problem-based. Therefore, the typical or the traditional teacher lectures have largely been replaced by teachers delivering shorter teacher-focused lessons where the teacher might help the student unpack their learning target to understand what their intended learning is. More instructional time is spent with students or teachers facilitating students to understand their learning. And that includes higher level thinking skills like creating and analyzing rather than passively receiving information. It's important to understand this so we can consider the role of the teacher and the student and how that might translate to the online environment. Like in the building, a lesson might include time with the teacher, in whole group, in differentiated small groups. Students might have time with digital resources and independent practice time. School schedules often include a significant amount of independent practice for students, and that is true online as well. We know that some students work more quickly than others. Some students take longer to complete assignments, and we know other students might be engaged in enrichment work that requires time outside the scheduled blocks. So we need to honor that. Some other parents asked about Wellness Wednesday, and like I said, there is a session coming up about that next week. But I just wanted to say that we view Wellness Wednesday, which is a K-12 initiative, as a valid addition and enrichment of our curriculum. Social emotional learning, restorative practices, social justice initiatives, and anti-racist education are all foundational to what we do. So we view guiding students through such content as strengthening that foundation to foster success in the academics. These initiatives also directly align with our IB philosophy. International Baccalaureate Learner Profile describes the broad range of human capacities and responsibilities that go beyond academic success. They imply a commitment to help all members of the school community learn to respect themselves, others, and the world around them. Each IB program is committed to the development of students according to the IB Learner Profile, and that profile aims to develop learners that are inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk takers, balanced, and reflective. So we also had questions about attendance. Is attendance required? How will it be taken? Yes, attendance is required, but we do have some flexibility on what that might look like. It does not mean that your child must attend every live session in order to be counted present. All live sessions will be recorded and students can watch them at another time. Students will log in to take attendance. However, please let me say, we do expect and want students at every live session. We understand that may not be possible in this current situation, but we hope that you will make it a top priority for your students to be there. Just like when the school is in the building, it's incredibly important that students are present and students are accountable for the learning that they miss if they should be absent. We also got a question, if a student is absent, what is the procedure? Just like in the building, please notify our attendance clerk, Mr. Scott, if a student will be absent. And just like in the building, it's important to note that attendance is different from participation and achievement. So we want students first present, then engaged, and doing their best. We also had some questions about our IB program, our International Baccalaureate program, and how that will be impacted by virtual learning and the current scheduling. So I think it's important to remember that IB is a worldwide organization, and this is a worldwide pandemic. So IB is giving us guidance, and I did include a link to the IB. They've actually created IB organization has created a microsite to give guidance on that, and we are, watching those updates regularly and following all of the guidance that they give us. So we will meet all the requirements of International Baccalaureate. Our students will be well prepared for whatever assessments they will be required to take this year. and we will not be cutting or reducing our program other than what is given us, the guidance we are given by IB themselves. The same holds true for our advanced placement courses. We will adhere to all guidance and requirements from College Board. As well, we hope to be able to offer SAT and ACT. At this time, according to both websites, there is limited testing capacity in certain areas. That is about all the information that is there. But we will certainly be watching that, and when it is safe to ensure, when we can ensure safety of students, we will definitely be, offering those tests if that is possible. There were some questions about electives, and that we had said that we would be focusing on core academic standards, which is absolutely true. But when we say we're focusing on core academic standards, we did not intend to prioritize one subject over another, but rather in virtual learning, we are prioritizing the core standards for each subject. So that is another way that we can reduce screen time by prioritizing core standards. And actually the curriculum and instruction department, we have been working with the instructional coaches and teachers to examine and focus on essential and primary standards of instruction. And also the elective teachers, I got a chance to talk with some of them, and they are working diligently to ensure that their content and experiences are equitable, engaging, and also meet best practices. I spoke with some of the PE teachers, and they said they are looking forward to inspiring and empowering students enrolled in CSD to be lifelong movers and advocates for their own health during virtual learning. We had some questions about what to do if the internet goes out during class. And that is something that is our teachers have asked as well. What do we do? I think if we are virtual long enough, it's going to probably happen to all of us at some point. I would just say, we need to adopt the motto that the Georgia Department of Education has, as we have here in City Schools of Decatur, and that is to choose compassion over compliance. If that should happen to a student, please let your teacher know as soon as possible what happened, and I'm sure your teacher will help make arrangements to recoup that work and what you missed. If it does happen regularly, however, please contact us and we will help you to get a hotspot and help with that internet connection. We had a question about families being able to collaborate, and we are aware that some families may want to collaborate to support their students in various courses. To help assist with that, we've asked that teachers teaching the same courses, that they collaborate and follow consistent plans. So with that said, I will turn it over to Principal Lofstrand with some further details. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Beam. So there were a lot of questions about the Decatur High School schedule. So I thought that I would walk you through the schedule and hopefully it will answer a lot of your questions. So first of all, we are doing the flipped classroom approach, where teachers are preparing asynchronous instruction during the first block of a period, followed by synchronous instruction with that teacher and with other classmates. We really wanted to be consistent with our time so that families, teachers, and students could all structure their days and their weeks most effectively. We understand that at the high school, some of our students are older and they might have some obligations at home. So we were really hoping that this structure would allow families to plan around that. After students engage with the asynchronous lessons, they will then have time with the teacher and their classmates to go over that content, ask questions. The teacher will be able to give feedback and will hopefully be able to talk to students about any misconceptions that came out in the earlier lesson. You will also notice on this schedule that we have small group time scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. This small group time is designed for some club meetings. There are a lot of questions about whether or not clubs would be able to meet virtually, and the answer is yes. Both clubs and sports coaches and advisors are encouraged to continue meeting with students in groups during that small group time, before or after school hours, and even during some open times on Wednesday. We also realize the importance of these enrichment activities for our students. So all of our teachers, coaches, and advisors are encouraged to get the student leadership to schedule times where they can meet with their clubs. There's also going to be tutoring available during that time. And for students who need extra support, there might be small group work or one-on-one with teachers during that time, those 4 days a week. There's also time in our schedule for students and advisors to work on some of the bigger projects that our students complete throughout the year. I used a lot of initials and abbreviations in that section of the schedule. But for sophomores, this includes personal project. For seniors, they have a senior project. And if they're involved in the DP program or the career program, there's an extended essay and a capstone project called a reflective project for the career IB program. Some students need some extra support through MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of supports. And there's time there to schedule that extra support as well. Students who are pursuing the IB diploma will also have time to work on their CAS project, their creativity, activity, and service project hours, as well as TOK, which is a theory of knowledge class that our IB diploma students have to take. So we are really excited to offer all of our students this extra time in the week to work on these really big projects and to get support from their advisors. So I think there's also time in the schedule in the morning where we'll have morning announcements, both from students and faculty and administrators, because we want to make sure that we're also engaging with the kids every day. So that is a look at our schedule. If you have any other specific questions about it, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the assistant principals or administrators.
Dr. Furman, if you'd like to click on, I can give a sneak peek at the website for
Sure.
parent and student supports. So tomorrow you will receive some further information, and that will include a handbook for families, as well as a link to this website that we've put together. There are supports for students and parents, and we are adding to it daily. A lot of what is here is how-to and technical help, but there is also, you'll see some support, the CDC guidance for getting ready for learning at home, just some help for supporting parents with resources and things like that. So I hope that will be helpful as well.
Okay, Dr. Beam, we had a couple questions come in, and Ms. Lofstrand, so hopefully we can answer some of these. Dr. Beam, again, this is a third time we've had this question come in, and I think since it's getting asked, we should answer this again, but there are questions about students having access to the media center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so every school is working on a method for contactlessly checking out library books. So I know Decatur High School is working on that as well. And as a district, we are working with transportation to develop a plan to have a bookmobile type of library checkout called the Flybrary. So we're excited about that.
Wonderful. Ms. Lofstrand, this one's for you, I think, that you'd probably be the best person to answer this. And this parent wants to know, they have a rising 9th grader. This is their first time at the high school, and they're curious about 9th grade orientation.
Absolutely, and we did not have the opportunity to do that either in the spring or now. So we will have meet and greet. Meet and greet will be virtual. It will be an opportunity for teachers to introduce themselves through a technology called Flipgrid. That will be released next week. We're kind of calling it Meet and Greet 1.0 because as soon as we're able to have some in-person meetings, we are going to have a Meet and Greet 2.0, which will allow our students to come in small groups and walk the building with their schedule so that they know where their classes are, because that's a big part of our 9th grade orientation. Another thing, our PTA puts out a DHS 101 that is typically scheduled for a Saturday. Instead, they are flipping that to a virtual experience. So there are going to be recordings on different subjects that are really important for our parents and our students to learn about Decatur High School. So that will be coming out toward the end of August. So if you haven't signed up for my e-blast yet, please go to csdecatur.net. You can sign up for the e-blast there, check Decatur High School news, and you will be included in my information that goes out weekly, letting you know about these opportunities.
Thank you. Most of the other questions that had rolled in have already been answered. So let's talk a little bit about where parents can go from here. So step one is tomorrow the link will come out for a parent handbook. Make sure you review that. Really start thinking with your family about what schedule is going to work for you and work best for your family, and start ironing out those details so that you are ready to plug in for day one on August 17th. And then once we've launched the parent resource webpage, Dr. Beam, do you know what day we're going to launch that webpage?
The link will go out tomorrow. Like I said,
Okay.
we are adding to it. And also because our secondary students might be listening as well, these resources are for them as well, not just parents.
Wonderful. Great. So check out the parent and student resource webpage. So finally, next steps, look for information from your principal, Ms. Lofstrand. Like she said, she does a weekly newsletter that comes out once a week with lots and lots of information. So if you haven't signed up to get that, please make sure that you sign up to get that email web update weekly. The other next step, and this includes students as well as parents, each school is going to be forming a local COVID-19 mitigation team. And what that team is going to do is work with the principal to make sure that all the little steps and pieces of procedures are in place so that when we can bring students and teachers back into our building safely, that we are ready to do that and we don't have to plan kind of quickly. We want to make sure we take enough time to get that done appropriately. We've spent a lot of time going through the details. So look into the communication coming out next week from Principal Lofstrand, as well as any other school principals. And we hope that you can be part of that team. And students, high school level students, we will probably also ask for you to be part of that team. So if you're interested in that, think about how you can participate in that. And then the other big next step for our community is do what you can to mitigate the spread of COVID in our communities. That is the biggest obstacle in our way to bring students back into the building. So wear your face mask, make sure you're following social distancing guidelines, stay home as much as possible to reduce the number of people that you are exposed to. And that, when we can reduce the community spread and the numbers of people infected in our community, we will be able to bring our students back much faster. So we ask that you do that. And then if you have any other questions from here on, Ms. Lofstrand and the high school team are the best people for you to direct your questions to. The Wilson Center staff, we are always there to help and direct and provide information. But when you've got very specific questions about what's happening at the high school or different things going on and how the schedule works, the people at the high school really are the best resource for you. So we encourage you to reach out directly to your team at the high school with, you know, who your teachers are, those schedules have been mailed, and then you'll be able to reach out to the teachers as well as any of the admin team there. So that's all we have for tonight. Oh, Ms. Lofstrand, did you want to share something about your SLT?
I did. I know you mentioned the mitigation team. I will be sending out information in tonight's e-blast about that. But I also have 2 parent positions on the SLT, the school leadership team. They're 2-year positions. So think about that. Look at the description in my e-blast tonight and see if that's something that you might be interested in running for.
Great idea. That is always looking for great parents to serve on those school leadership teams as well. Thank you everyone again. We really appreciate that you took the time out tonight to listen, and hopefully we answered all of your questions, and we look forward to seeing all of your faces in the virtual world, and hopefully sooner than later in a real face-to-face. Have a great night. Thank you.